Hey, you guys, welcome back to the channel. And we got another recap, The Ultimatum, Season 1, Episode 7 and 8. And it has been a wild ride up until this point. Now, these are the last two episodes from the first upload on Netflix, which happened on April 6th. And then we get two more final episodes tomorrow, episode 9 and 10, where decisions are made and the reunion. But before we jump into this video, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. And if you like the video, smash the like button and drop a comment down the comment section below. So without any other further ado, let's go ahead and unpack what happened in these two episodes. So with episode number 7, which is entitled Back to Reality, this is where our original couples are now officially back together. Because remember, they were broken up to explore other relationships, but they are now back together in their trial marriage in the second half of the season. Uh, some interesting things happen, especially with this particular young lady, Miss April. Now, as we know, most of the season, she was very open about how she was struggling with her infertility. However, we do see coming in Alexa's bachelorette party in front of Ray, who we've just spent about 3 weeks seeing building a strong connection with Jake. April reveals that she's going in for a ultrasound because she might just be pregnant with Jake's baby. So you know why she did that, right, guys? Because especially doing that in front of Ray. Ray and Jake has this connection that we saw for pretty much most of the first half of this particular season. Um, but with April knowing about that connection, yeah, she definitely wanted to wave that in her face to let her know that yeah, not only we've been sleeping together, but we also might have a baby on the way. So that didn't sit well with Ray at all. Now, speaking, of course, when it comes to Ray definitely has some struggles. We saw later during the bachelorette party that she struggles to kind of tell the truth about her feelings for Jake in front of hurting April, right? But the thing is that the women tell her not to do it. So, especially not at the expense of her own happiness. I mean, harsh words from April at that point, it brought that girl to tears. And I mean, this is what you expect. I mean, I didn't know what to really expect with this particular show, but it's pretty interesting that not only do they kind of swap partners with each other, but then they want you to create the drama. They want them, I should say, to actually talk about in front of the person either that they came in the door with or who they actually made a connection with and talk about the connections and what they've been doing and all of this kind of stuff. Well, of course, with April saying what she had to say, she was like, I have no time for this. I am out. She left them girls right there and pretty much hmm, left her in tears, meaning Ray. So it is what it is. Well, her struggles, meaning Ray, is definitely not over with as of yet. So out of all of the, let's say, quarrels between the original couples, Ray and Zay was over the top. Now, Ray's inability to be vulnerable and express her true feelings or even recognize them didn't sit well because Zay asked her straight up, I want to know what's on your mind. Let me know where we stand. How do you feel? And she wouldn't give him that. She wouldn't give him any explanation whatsoever. And at that point, because of the fact that she was so dismissive, and really, he was saying how much he loved her, and how he want to make this work, and all of this, and she was just not giving it to him. Now, I would say in this particular situation, I think she is so sold on with Jake. She wants to explore that with Jake, that she's trying to lob a grenade in this relationship with Zay. She is so over it to the point where, you know, she's trying to cause problems where they could just break up. And I'm like, just tell the guy that, you know what, and maybe they can't make a decision out loud yet, obviously, because, they have a show to make. But somewhere along the line, she wasn't giving him anything. What we ended up seeing is Zay was like, you know what, I'm out. He left the house. He was gone to, I think, 8 o'clock the next day. And, when he came back, I don't know, it was weird. So he came back, he was like, "What's wrong?" And she was like, "How dare you? I tried to call you, you didn't answer my calls. I tried to text you, you didn't respond back." And we really didn't get a clear answer on where he was. But obviously, him being out till 8 a.m., not contacting her, was crossing the line for her. And what it ended up happening is he's trying to console her and hug her and grab her and stuff like that. We see it go off camera, and the next thing you know, we hear her apologizing, saying, "I hate I had to punch you. I didn't mean to punch you." And and she actually came on Instagram to kind of talk about the fact that, even though how the situation ended, he shouldn't have stayed out, his communication, her not being vulnerable, she had no right to put her hands on him. And I always say that on this channel, nobody should be putting their hands on nobody. Well, ultimately, because they had this big old fight, and this moves us to episode number 8, which is time to answer the ultimatum. Well, look like this couple has already made a decision. So they can't get to a place where they see eye to eye. And with all this conflict, it ends up with them breaking up on the show. So that's the end of them. I honestly think that they were not equally matched. I just think that they have two different personalities. And so I don't know if sometimes you wonder if some of these couples, because that comes up a lot on Temptation Island, on whether these couples are real or not. I don't know. It was pretty interesting. But yeah, they made their decision. So Ray and Zay is no more. And maybe it's for the best. And if I was Jake, I would probably kind of keep an eye on that, because I don't care who you are, male or female, you don't put your hands on nobody. You don't punch people, you don't hit them, you don't do any of that. And they claim, I've heard stories about the tugging and the shoving of each other. If that happened, there shouldn't have been any shoving of each other either. So bottom line is that these two don't belong together, and they ended it. But there is one other couple that we need to talk about, and that is this couple right here, Kobe and Madeleine. Now, pretty much, I know the show has been trying to paint Kobe as this dismissive player who don't follow the rules. Madeleine, on the other hand, these emotional highs and lows, and he asks very direct questions, and she either gets offended, she deflects, or she just turn around and just over. I don't know. It's just weird to see how this whole thing has happened. I know some people. I follow the Facebook groups and things like that, and folks have a lot of different things to say about Madeleine, which I don't want to jump and say, okay, this is what she was doing, or maybe this is what was going on, but I don't see how these two actually are still together. Honestly, Um, I said in my previous episode where Kobe wasn't matched with anyone, on the show, and he ended up hanging out with April. Uh, he decided to step out and go and try to explore his connection with somebody outside of the show, while, of course, Madeleine explored that whole thing with Randall. And I mean, she got upset about these text messages and all of this, but okay, if he shouldn't have went outside the show, I think the show or the producers should deal with that. But on the flip side, Madeline, you had a whole nother connection with Randall. Yeah, like I said in my previous recap, they started off on a foundation of sex. So for her to be so upset, so over the top, so emotional, this back and forth, and she don't know if we can see us together and all of that. I'm like, Kobe, you know what? Hey, just keep it pushing at this point, because Madeline, yeah. And we're probably going to hear more about her after the season is over. A lot of interviews, it's all going to come out in this next week or so. And of course, my eyes will be to the skies to see what happens. But I don't know. It's pretty interesting. We really didn't get a lot with too much of the other couples, because there was also Shanique and Randall. I think they're ill matched. She has a different energy than he does, and unless maybe that's a good fit, because sometimes you have one or the other. I don't know, but with these two, I don't think they're going to make it either. I don't think they're going to match with the people that they were with, because as you guys also saw, Shanique and Zay had a falling out as well. And Shanique was like, if that was me and you stayed out at 8 o'clock in the morning, and you know, oh, it would have been a whole problem. So it also triggered him. He was like, I can't talk to you. I came to you for advice, and you're trying to scold me. So I don't think there's a connection there with Zay and Shanique. And as for Madeline and Randall, I don't see it there either, because Madeline is all over the place. She really is. And at this point, I don't think that they're a good match. Um, and then at the same time, Shanique and Randall, I don't know if they're going to stick it through. I don't see the potential, but who's to say that it won't happen? Because they had a few cute moments together when they were back together, but I don't see it. I just really don't. But we'll see what the decision is for these two tomorrow. And then this last couple, which I talked about earlier, these two actually reconnected. Now, there was a beginning of the episode where, you know, Jake was like, when April was sitting on his lap at the park on the bench, he wasn't touching her, he wasn't holding her, and she was telling him, I love you, I want to be with you, and blah blah, violins and all, and Jake was just not in it. But as time went on, obviously he kind of, fell back into old patterns, which is how we got to the point of her possibly being pregnant. Now, she did find out that she was not pregnant in episode 8. Her period was just late. And she was like, oh, well, I guess you're happy now, right? And he was like, of course not. I would want to be a father. If this is what was going to happen, it was going to happen. But they seem like they reignited their relationship to the point where he was actually back to saying to April how much he loved her, which I find interesting, because I guess the second 3 weeks away from Ray was enough for him to kind of slip back into his feelings that he had for April. So this is where the cliffhanger left, because when we saw these two actually about to make a decision, we see Ray come out of the shadows trying to interrupt. So the question is, what is Jake going to say? Who is he going to choose? Is he going to choose April and stay with her? Or is he going to, pursue things and move in a different direction with Ray? Or would he just say, you know what? It ain't gonna work with you, Ray. In April, I don't know if I can get past our issues, and I'm just gonna leave the show alone. So we'll most definitely have to see how this is all going to unfold in episode number 9 and 10, which is the final decision. And I think, um, yeah, it's time to answer the ultimatum at this point. You know, whether or not they're going to explore a new connection, stay with their current, or just leave the show alone. So I'm waiting for that to drop tomorrow. And once it drops, we will definitely be talking about it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed all the recaps so far for episode 1 through 8. Drop your comments. I want to know what you think. And until the next video, like, comment, and subscribe. And we will see you soon.